Investing in property makes sense. Investing in the right property takes knowledge. Welcome to the Rewarding Property Decisions podcast. I'm Jarrod McCabe, Director of Wakeland Property Advisory. Join me for expert insights into the fundamentals, trends and opportunities to help you create long-term wealth through smart property decisions. Hi everyone and welcome to episode 113 of the Rewarding Property Decisions podcast. This will be our final podcast of the year. We will, as we've done previous years over the summer, be doing a best of series. So the three best podcasts, the ones that have been listened to most and most popular over the last 12 months will be reviewed. So you can wait and see which one has been most sought after. It's been a really good year. We've had some fantastic content. I really have to thank the guests that I've had on throughout the year. Really appreciate it. Always helps to give extra content, different perspectives on the market and what's happening. So that's always been good. It's really amazing. It's 5 years now that we've been doing the podcast for. I'm surprised that there's that much to talk about from a property perspective, but it seems to keep coming up with different perspectives and different ideas, which is great. So today I thought we would lighten things up just a little bit. Over the holiday season, a lot of people obviously go down to the beach and have some fantastic time with friends and family. So I thought today, just a little bit differently, rather than just look purely at the property markets, we'd look at both the Bellarine and Mornington Peninsulas and see how we go in terms of comparing them and there's which one is more popular than the other. Now, I've found over the years that with holiday destinations, it's a little bit like following your football team. Once you've picked one, you tend to stick with that, and that's what you follow, and that's where you go. So there's a fair amount of passion around that too, and you do really stick to what you know. So I'll declare my hand right here, right now. I've been heading down to the Surf Coast and to the Barwon Heads type area, and Torquay type area for coming up on 30 years pretty soon. So I've got a bit of a leaning that way, but I will make sure, and I promise that I'll keep it from a balanced perspective as we go through different elements. So I thought to start with, though, just to give a bit of history on both the locations, we'll start by looking at just city or the main townships or two of the townships on each of the peninsulas, just to give a little bit of background, a bit of context, rather than trying to give history on the whole peninsula. First one, obviously, being from a Mornington perspective, is Sorrento. Now, Sorrento, firstly, was occupied for tens, if not thousands of years. Tens of thousands of years by the Boonwurrung people. They occupied the Mornington Peninsula well and truly before any European settlement. Europeans did arrive around 1802, and initially Sorrento was set up with a convict settlement, as a lot of Australia was. Around the 1870s, the Sorrento Post Office was first opened, and then things started to develop from there. Access, from an accessibility perspective, that was always quite difficult during that time, and a paddle steamer was set up to leave from Port Melbourne, come to Sorrento, and then went across to Queenscliff. So there was a bit of a triangle there, which certainly made accessibility far easier. And from there, it really started to establish itself as a really strong holiday destination, particularly for Melburnians. On the other side of things, from Queenscliff's point of view, it was again occupied well and truly before European settlement by the Bengalat Bulag clan from the Warthaurong tribe. Now, European settlers came around the same time, 1802, to Queenscliff. It was had permanent European occupation, began around 1836, with land sales beginning around 1853. And the post office opening down there at 1853 as well. Queenscliff was originally more of a fishing village and became more of a tourist destination around the late 1800s. That was helped by a train line opening from Geelong down to Queenscliff, which certainly encouraged more tourism. But Queenscliff was probably more utilised as a tourist destination by farmers, particularly from the Western District and Western Victoria. It was sought after. People would come to Geelong and then the accessibility was there, so it became more of a tourist destination. So a bit more of a regional influence to the Bellarine Peninsula. So now what I thought we'll do is we'll look at some of the key things that people look for in terms of a beachside holiday destination. And I've looked at, I think it's 6 elements that we've considered, or maybe 5. Anyway, we'll go through them all. And I've basically chosen one over the other. And as I said, I'm trying to keep my unbiased opinions out, but let's go through them. The first one is beaches, and obviously that's a pretty key component to the peninsulas if you're looking for a beachside destination. Now, really, this will all be a bit of eye in the beholder, but I think from a beach perspective, the Mornington Peninsula has really, probably more on the bay side of things, has some fantastic, calm, family-friendly beaches. It's nice and white sands, it's very blue water on the bay side of things around there, and it's got great access from a watercraft perspective. There's a lot of boat ramps, that sort of thing, which provide access to people to be able to utilise the bay. And it's far enough away from Melbourne whereby some of the bay beaches in Melbourne City are a little bit average, whereas down at particularly on the Mornington Peninsula, they can be quite stunning. The back beaches, which is more of the surf beaches, can be very, very wild and very rough. There can be some good surf there, but probably not as family friendly as what the other side can be. On the flip side, the Bellarine Peninsula, and we're sort of calling it Bellarine/Surf Coast Highway, but that there's a reason it's called the Surf Coast. The way the coastline slopes and the angle it has, and some of the reefs and coves that are there allow for some of the best surfing, not only in Victoria, Australia, but actually worldwide. So it's very popular. People come from far and wide to surf along that Bellarine and Surf Coast areas. Bells Beach obviously comes to mind for most people with the Bells Beach Pro at Easter. The sands are fantastic. The beaches are really good because of the way that coast slopes and the coves and things. You can choose to have great surf, or you can choose to have beaches with a bit of surf but that are a bit more protected and a bit safer. So from our first categories perspective, I'm going to give that to the Bellarine Peninsula. So we're 1-0 in favour of Bellarine at this stage. The next component I've looked at is fishing. Now, fishing from a pastime perspective is extremely popular at this time of year. It's probably pretty tough to separate these two because there's some great options on both sides. From a boat perspective, given that it is very easily accessible to get in and out and around Port Phillip Bay from both sides, I'm not probably looking at it as much from a from a boat perspective, because there's plenty of people that go from the Bellarine over and surf off Mornington, and vice versa. So we'll take out the boat side of things and look at it more from a land fishing and foreshore fishing perspective. Both peninsulas have got really good pier access and opportunities for people to fish from the pier or from the beach itself. Cast a line out from the beach and give great options from a beach point of view, fishing point of view from the beach. Bowen Heads probably provides a slight point of difference in that you've got the Bowen River that comes out there. So there's some river fishing as an option. But as I said before, the boat ramps that make fishing accessible for boaties on the Mornington Peninsula probably help that out as well. So I'm sitting a bit on the fence with the fishing side of things, and I'm going to give that a 0.5 mark to each. So Bellarine's now at 1.5 and Mornington's at 0.5. The next component that we've looked at here is wineries and restaurants. Now, again, both very well serviced. The Mornington Peninsula, particularly around Red Hill, has got some fantastic wineries and restaurants included. Now, I'll speak more from a personal perspective as to what the ones that I like, but Montalto, Yabby Lake, Paringa Estate, and from a personal perspective, friends of ours own Panton Winery. That's a great one around Shoreham, so you should definitely check that out too. But then if you go down to the Bellarine Peninsula, you can look at Jackrabbit, Scotchman's Hill, and obviously Oakdean as well. So there's some great options there too. So there's a lot, but I think for sheer weight of numbers and sheer quality, I think the Mornington Peninsula does take the cake there. So we'll give the Mornington Peninsula a 1 point there for the wineries and restaurants. The next one, again, is very popular at this time of year, is golf courses and the golf opportunities. It can be a very relaxing but also very frustrating game, and spend a day on the golf course can be great, but it can also be very ordinary. There can be stunning views, stunning outlooks, particularly if you get up into some of the sand dunes around the Mornington Peninsula. There's some really nice outlooks and things there, and then some of the courses around the Bellarine have some great views out over the Port Phillip Bay, but also out over the Surf Coast as well. Some of the courses that I'm more familiar with on the Bellarine are things like Bowen Heads, 13th Beach, the Sands at Torquay, and also the RACV at Torquay are both really good courses as well. But when you go then down to the Mornington Peninsula, it takes it up to another level. You've got the National, Moon Links, the Dunes, Cape Shank, Portsea and St Andrews Beach, just to name a few. There's plenty more. So there's a lot of golf courses down on that Mornington Peninsula that probably give it the edge. So we'll give the Mornington Peninsula a 1 point for the golf courses, which takes them up to 2.5 to 1.5. So Mornington leading the way at the moment. The next option is not always for everyone, but certainly something that a lot of people take up over the summer months and look at from a beach perspective is where can we camp? And there's such a wide variety of camping that people do consider. Obviously, there's a lot of caravan parks on both peninsulas that you can look at, and particularly on the Mornington, but certainly around Ocean Grove as well. There's the foreshore camping, which people love. On down the Mornington Peninsula, there's people that have been going there not just for years, but for generations, and have established themselves and book year after year after year, and really enjoy spending that time down there with family and friends. Others probably feel as though that might be a little bit too crowded for them and would prefer to have a more traditional camping experience where there's a lot more space around you. And perhaps the Surf Coast Highway provides that because there's a lot more space and variety in areas. You can go down to Lorne and get up into the hills. Or there's other options in and around there where you've got a bit more, off the grid type camping. So because of the flexibility that you've got, you can do either way on the Bellarine. I think I'm going to give the Bellarine Peninsula the point from a camping perspective, just because there's a few more options in that regard. So 2 more categories to go. We've got accessibility is the next one, which is a key component to this, because getting in and out, and people want to be able to get there fairly readily and easily. The Mornington Peninsula has always been very popular from an eastern suburban Melbourne perspective because you don't have to cross the city itself. You can shoot straight down that side. And the access has improved year on year. Obviously, Eastlink has helped things a lot, and then Peninsula Link even further creates accessibility down to the Mornington Peninsula. For those that are probably looking to go further than Dramana and Rosebud, that sort of an area, that's when it starts to hit the wall. And the traffic congestion from there to get down to Blairgowrie, Rye, Sorrento, Portsea can take a hell of a long time if you don't pick the timing right. So that can be a bit of an issue. Becomes a bit more like Punt Road on a Saturday than it should be as a beachside type getaway. Whereas getting out of Melbourne is quite often the biggest barrier for those, particularly if you are, and again, I'm speaking from a personal perspective, coming from the eastern suburbs, to get across town, to get through the tunnel, to get over the Westgate Bridge, to get out that way can be really difficult, and the congestion can be significant in that regard. So hopefully the Westgate Tunnel will open that up a little bit and just create a bit more ease to get out. The 6-lane freeway down to the Princess Highway down to Geelong certainly helps, and the bypass around Geelong to get down to the Surf Coast Highway has certainly opened things up a little bit more. So because of that, and it's only slightly because of that, I'm going to give the Bellarine that slight edge. If you're coming further north, then Mornington probably is a bit easier, but for a lot of people getting down to the actual point of the peninsula on Mornington side of things, the congestion can be a nightmare. So just by a slim margin, we'll give that to Bellarine. So that takes us to 3.5 to 2.5 in favour of Bellarine. The extra point for camping previously took us to 2.5 all. So now Bellarine's up 3.5 points to 2.5 points. And we come to our final category, and that's property. So I've looked here at a variety of angles and different ways to consider things, but just as a starting point from a median house price perspective to look at entry-level points as well as the more premium side of things. From a Mornington side, Hastings currently sits at around $675,000 for a median house price, and the top end of town is Sorrento. It's at 1.75 mil. Over on the Bellarine, you can get into Curlewis at sort of around the 650 mark, median house price, and Barwon Head sits at around 1.45 mil. So again, depending upon what you're after and what type of property you might be looking for, they're pretty similar as an entry point perspective. You can get in at that sort of $600,000 to $700,000 mark in terms of a house. Whereas if you're looking for more that premium type option, with the way the Mornington Peninsula is set up and structured, with the fact that it's landlocked, so there's a lot less development opportunities in and around the Mornington, but with the hills and the opportunity to sit up to get views either back over the back beach or out over the bay and have that north-facing orientation and look that way. And the fact that the Bellarine is so heavy or becoming more and more developed, and there's a lot more property that is being developed in and around there. The fact that it's a bit more difficult and there's a bit more scarcity value, lands at a bit more of a premium on the Mornington. From a scope of growth, and we're not talking about that from an investment perspective, as most listeners will know, we don't look at beachside properties from an investment perspective. But I would have to say that from a scope of growth, I would have to give it slightly to Mornington, which, surprise, surprise, we're at 3.5 points each. So everything's locked together and everything's equal. Personally, I'm sticking with my side of the bay, given the experiences that I've had, the amount of time that I've spent over on the Surf Coast and the Bellarine Peninsula. That's the way I would go. Great space, great beaches, great golf courses. But the main thing is the memories that have been created there over an extended period of time with family and friends gives it the edge for me. But no matter what, it's what works for you, what suits you the best. Either way, enjoy your holidays, enjoy the time away. Doesn't matter which direction you head. Just make sure you have a fantastic time. Stay safe, and I look forward to speaking with everyone in the new year. So that's it for 2025, episode 113 of the Rewarding Property Decisions podcast. Please keep listening. We will have the best of series over the summer, and I look forward to speaking with everyone in 2026.